we can all get together. Just such a freaking user. So all of a sudden she hears Olivia and she goes rigid because she knows, this looks bad, you know? First of all, she had told him she was going home. So you didn't go home. You're hanging out with your friends, which he doesn't care about that. That's not a big deal. The big deal is now you're in the cut, in the corner with your ex-boyfriend. There's nowhere how can you explain that? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm in the corner talking to my ex-boyfriend. You like, what, why? What is happening? So that's a hard one to explain. So Jonathan, well, actually, first Hunter tells Jonathan, I thought I told you to stay away from her. So he grabs Olivia's arm, and he sees Kimberly, and he also sees a beer bottle next to her, knowing, Olivia was probably sitting right next to her. And she was like, I didn't drink any of it, And he asks Kimberly, you need a ride home? And she jumps up like she's scared too. She's like, I'm coming. So they get home, and he finally talks to her, and he was like, what were you doing with him? And she explains, what happened. And then he says, he's fucking Tara. He hasn't introduced her to his parents. And he's like, he actually loved you, but because you weren't of the right social class, that's why he dumped you. He's like, and then I have to see him in the corner with you. And so he's like beyond pissed. Like beyond. He leaves and he goes to work because she's sitting there like I don't even know. Like, she explained what happened, but again, when you have someone that has like a massive issue with trust and all kind of stuff, like that, it's a hard one. It's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. So he goes to work, and then in like the office, and then that night when he came in the bedroom, he went and showered, he got in the bed, and he turned his back towards her. He didn't kiss her, anything. He has never done that. So now she's really terrified because she's like, oh my God, what if I lose him behind this? So the next day she goes to work, and she wants to his temperature is still the same. It's ice cold. He will not look at her. She brings the coffee in. He doesn't acknowledge her at all. Like, he has iced her out. She talks to Brenda about it. Brenda's like, listen, you need to be the woman that you were before, that stood up for yourself and stood up to him. The one that didn't sign that contract and wasn't going to be bullied into doing it. That's who you need to be. And you need to go in there. You need to talk to him. And so as she's talking to Brenda, she does get herself kind of wound up, like, yeah, you know what I mean? And so Brenda sees it. And even though she was trying to get her to get the confidence to go in there and talk, she was actually kind of like scared because she's like, don't get too much. And then he's pissed at me, like, bring it down some. So she goes in, and her purpose when she went in there was to go off. But what comes out was her actual fears. And she's like, I feel like you're pulling away from me, and eventually you're just going to leave me. And then I'm just going to be alone. And she was also scared. She's like, I'm scared about having the baby, losing the baby. She's like, and I need you. And she even tells him, Jonathan wants to work for you. It's not about me. And so Hunter was like, he was just spinning because he felt as if she was going to hurt him, and that he needed to kind of lock her. He's like, either I get rid of you, which I can't do, or like lock you away so you can't leave me. And I know both of those are like absolutely absurd. He was like, but when I saw you two together, he's like, it just fucked me up. And, he told her, you need to stay away from Jonathan, and, any outings with your friends, like, I need to be there. And she was like, listen, I still need my me time with friends. He's not my friend. He was there because whoever invited him there. You know what I mean? But he's not a part of my friend group. But yeah, there are, we do have some friends in common. So, he kisses her. And then they have like a nice fuck on the couch. And he was rough. And so he asked her, he's like, is that too rough? And she was like, no, that was great. We good, So then he tells her he wants her, leave on time today, no overdoing it. And she's like, all right, I'll do that. The next day, she finally had made a decision and she put in her notice to Hunter. And Hunter told her that she was doing the right thing. And he told her, he would need her to stay on to train a new assistant. And then, she could fully be gone. And so the new assistant, her name's Carrie. She's middle-aged and married. So that was another thing to ease her mind, not to think that he was going to get someone else like F in the middle of the day. So the game blew up. I mean, it remained number one for like a month straight. And they were getting promotion, like even on talk shows. They were talking about this great game. So she really did quit at the right time, because there was absolutely no way she could have kept up with everything at the rate that this game blew up. Because now they got to create new levels and all kind of stuff. So she did the right thing. I was like, good. So that night, she had planned to just go to like third base with Hunter. That shit did not work. They wound up fucking. And when they were done, he brought up about telling her mother the next day. And she was still like, I don't know, my mother's already too much now. And if she found out we were having a baby, she would just like bombard you. So then he was like, well, maybe she's just mismanaging her money. I could look at her finances. And Olivia was like, no, she isn't your problem. She's mine. And Hunter was like, well, what if we were married? And Olivia's heart started pounding a little bit. And she was like, I don't want to get married just so you can look into my mother's finances. And besides, that is so unromantic. So he told her, he loved her and good night. And then she started thinking, like, damn, maybe the reaction I just gave him, I hope that doesn't like push him away from the idea. So she starts beating herself up a little like she normally does. Next day they go to her mother's house to tell her about the baby. She's 4 months along at this point. I don't know how the mother didn't fucking see it if she's 4 months, but however, I guess she didn't. So I digress. I still don't get how that woman did not see that she's pregnant at 4 months. So they tell the mother, and Olivia could see like the disappointment that was covered up by like this fake happiness. How someone can say they're happy with this smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. That's what she saw with her mother. And so they leave, and Olivia's like, I don't understand why she isn't like as happy as I thought she would be. And Hunter was like, she's jealous. You've done what she has never been able to do, which is land a rich whale in less than a year. They leave her mother's house. They go to her father's grave, and she's like, wait, how the hell did you know where my father's grave was? And she's like, how do you think of the sweetest things ever, but yet you're like cold to everybody else? So he had been having the grave kept up for her. And she really appreciated that, because she hadn't been able to make it out there as often. And so she really appreciated that. And then he tells her, do you mind if I ask your father a question? And he asked for her hand in marriage. But he was saying it like to the grave. And so she gets like super excited and she says yes. And Hunter was like, I haven't asked you yet. Patience, love. I was like, oh my gosh. That was cute and funny. So they left from there and they went back to the city. Hunter had called Kimberly to have her meet up with him to help Olivia pick out her ring. So he did ask her, like, do you want me to just pick it out, or do you want to pick it out, and then kind of how do you want to do it? And so being that Kimberly was there, yeah, she wants to look at rings. So he tells I'll be back. And she kind of starts looking at him, and she almost had like a fucking breakdown because he was leaving. He's like, I'm not going far. I'll be back. And she's like, okay. Because again, you got to remember her hormones are like all over the place. So she decides on like this round solitaire, but she couldn't make up her mind on the exact one. So she did leave like a bunch of options for him to pick out. So that way she's still kind of getting surprised. So he goes in and picks out the ring, and then they are headed somewhere, and she's waiting to find out. So he takes her to the park where they had their first picnic. He got on one knee and he asked her to marry him. That was so sweet to read. And she, of course, says yes. And then he told her the day wasn't over yet. And he gave her a really great speech about, pretty much how he felt about her. And it was just super sweet to just read that. Like, just to hear, to whenever you're able to read someone's emotions, it's just a beautiful thing. So he told her they were going to meet up with her friends, and that he even invited Jonathan, as he planned on making his claim on her very public. So they go to a ritzy place in downtown San Francisco, and she sees Kim and Robbie, Rick, his girlfriend Jen, and then Jonathan and Tara are there as well as like some other businessmen. So Olivia kind of is looking around, and she's like, "Where's Bert? Where's Brenda?" You know, and Hunter's like, "This is just to let society know how serious I am about you. You know, we'll do something with, you know, the people that mean something later, but this is just for that." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So then one of the business guys came over, and he was talking about Hunter making like this big change. So Hunter was like, "Oh, the news is out." And Olivia was like, "What news?" So then Jonathan comes up, and he's trying to suck up and asking for a job. And Hunter just absolutely annihilated him. It was the funniest thing to read. Jonathan's all like, "You know, I went to Stanford, Hunter." And, you know, Hunter's like, "Yeah, you barely maintained a C average." And then Jonathan's like, "You know, how did he put it? He's making really great strides in the company that he's working for." And Hunter's like, "Don't you just have like an entry level position?" I was like, damn. So, we find out what the big news is, right? Because the big guy keeps talking, interjecting, while Jonathan's trying to talk as well. And so Hunter is the CEO of her and Bruce's company. So immediately Jonathan looked at Hunter like unimpressed. But it's just kind of like, who cares what you think? You ain't shit. You trying to work for me. You know what I mean? So he has been taking care of the business aspect and has done so much, he won't have to work a full week for at least like 2 years. And so he was like, "You know, are you happy?" And she was like, "Yeah." She's like, it made her so happy because it's like, oh my gosh, she still gets to keep working with him, which is basically her being able to be around him. And then he's going to bring Brenda along as well. And he's only going to need the one assistant. And so Brenda had known what was happening this whole time, but she wouldn't tell. Because like once Hunter tells Brenda stuff, she keeps it a secret until it's revealed. She's super good with that. So the next few days, they went by in like a blur. Olivia's on her way out to Hunter's, to go pick up Hunter's lunch. And Hunter's mother, Trisha, came up to the office. And she wound up walking with Olivia to like the little bistro to get the sandwiches. She had heard about the engagement. She congratulated her and, you know, told her how beautiful the ring was. And she asked, you know, how's Hunter been treating you? And she's like, very well. She didn't confirm the pregnancy because she felt like, you know, that's something Hunter has to and needs to tell his own mother. And so, you know, Trisha tells, you know, hopefully they can get together soon. So Olivia goes back to the office. She tells Hunter what happened. He looked shocked because I think he was worried that maybe she wouldn't be accepting. But I'm still like, how do you think that when the woman really liked Olivia? So where the fuck is that thought? That, like, some stuff I understand him being a little paranoid about, but that, like, she clearly liked her. So that was just like, whatever. So then Olivia tells him about her hinting at that party a while back, how, you know, it'd be good for him to have a baby. And he was shocked because he was still kind of stuck in that past, looking at the reaction and what happened with the whole Denise thing. So she thinks he's about to leave the room, and then he tells Olivia, get on your knees. I was like, shit. So he tells her to suck his cock, which she does, and he comes like all over her face. She goes to clean up, and then he tells her he wants to fuck her on every surface in this office. I was like, that's hot. Because he has to hand the office over the next day. So he eats her pussy, fucks her until she comes. And when they're done, he tells her they're going to go to his mother's this weekend and tell her. And he was like, you know, no more hiding. So they go to the mother's house that weekend. The mother's like super happy. I guess everyone else knew about the pregnancy, so they of course had already told the mom. So when she came up to him, she was just so happy, and she just touched his face, and she was like, I love you so much. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad, you know, I have my son back again. So it was a super sweet moment. Trisha had also invited Olivia's mother So